What's good, y'all? We back again with another vid. Happy New Year's, man. Happy New Year's. We all got blessed with the beginning of the new year. Ooh, that sounded weird. We all got blessed with a new year. Means more life, more knowledge, more wisdom. I woke up again. It's early. Woke up early morning, and I had something on my heart for real. And I think it's because of something I'm going through, or not that I'm going through, just something I recently experienced. And so my main topic to talk about right now is what happened to the days where people were actually in love, or like not even just love. What happened to the days where people were just genuine for whatever reason? I feel like nowadays a lot of people are going through things, as you know, the world does. People have always gone through things since the dawn of time. We've always had issues of all sorts, and we all have, trauma and pains that we go through. But the main thing that I be thinking about, or that be stuck on my heart, is where's the truly like genuine people? Not that I don't have genuine people in my life, that's one of my blessings, but where's more people like that? Like, in ancient times when they speak of, and people having communities and families and such, there was an understanding of, like, back in those days, everybody in your community had a relationship, whether it be platonic or romantic. Everybody in the community had a relationship and shared equal amount of love and respect and care. And I think for the most part, when it comes to the idea of like sex, right? So like intercourse with another person, and how at least hookup culture places it, is that most people nowadays with sex is that, though, not that there's an issue with wanting sex, but there's an issue with the way that it's displayed, or like a lot of people are just for the physical aspects of just getting into that type of relationship or interaction without really knowing the person, or understanding them, or knowing comfortability. And I feel like that's a main issue with me. I feel like I have with women per se, at least in the context of like having genuine relationship. Like, I feel like a lot of the times for me, whether it be platonic friendships or romantical, it's always hard for me to form those type of relationships, because I believe in spirituality, and I'm a firm believer in, energy and all that. And so when I feel something's not mutual, or an understanding's not met the same, I feel a sense of injustice. I be feeling like before when I interact with people, whether it be a platonic or romantic or even sexual, right? I at least be wanting to know what the person's like, a little bit about them, what they care about, the do's and don'ts and stuff. And so the main issue with that is a lot of people are nowadays very one-dimensional, one-faceted. There's not, a lot of people don't got much going on in their head, for real. I'm gonna use the bathroom. I'll be right back. Back at it. I had to fix my hair up so y'all could see my face a little bit more. But like I was saying, when it comes to like relations and stuff like that, I feel like a lot of people nowadays, it's superficial, A lot of people just care about the bling, or they care about items, they care about the look of things, they care about an aspect of something without understanding the full gravity of it. So like, for example, when I talk about relations, or I'm a male, I can only speak from the male perspective, so I'll try my best to make it a gender neutral topic, if that's the right term for it. But there'll just be a lot of times with my relations with women where, and maybe it's my lack of understanding, maybe it's my lack of understanding of the needs and wants of ladies, to an extent. But a lot of the time I feel as though there'll be expectations, and I think this is probably how dudes feel too when it comes to ladies per se, or in the opposite, men towards women. What women feel is there'll be a set of expectations that's already set before you know the person. And so you could say, for example, I want to be intimate with you in a sexual fashion. Well, then depending on this person, they might have a certain set of standards or certain things that they want you to do or be for that exact thing, even though that was never spoken upon, even though that's maybe you and the other person have a different perspective on what you're wanting, because it's not communicated, or because you don't know the person and you don't know their full intention, fully what they're wanting, you therefore have this confusion of energy per se. And so I'll notice a lot of times with girls where I'm a very free-flowing person. I go with the flow, whatever it is. I'm not the type to force anything. I'm not the type to make anything more than what it is or less than what it is. But I feel like sometimes the things that I feel like I be missing as far as maybe intimacy, it's less about sex for real. The older I get, it's less about physical intimacy per se. I think the older that I get and the more that I understand myself and the more that I challenge my thoughts and my process and how I view the world, the main thing that I notice that I feel like I be missing is just mutualness. It's not necessarily about me gaining something from somebody, but it's someone understanding me. It's someone who is able to perceive me by taking the time to know who I am. Because I feel like in knowing a person, when you actually know a person, not for what they have, not for what they do, not even for how they look, but just of who they are and what they feel on the inside and what their needs might be. Once you break that down, I feel like everything could be so much simpler if people were just honest with themselves. I feel like a lot of people nowadays just aren't honest with the things that they want. And maybe it's a thing of like not knowing, which is okay. We're human, You're not supposed to know everything. You're not supposed to know your whole life and your whole grand scheme, but knowing who you are, at least in this moment, should be important. Knowing how you want to treat people or how you want to be. Seeing the highest version of yourself. And I try to preach that to myself and people around me. Seeing the highest version of yourself. And whatever that may look like, And so, I feel like it'd be that aspect I'm missing. A lot of people, men and women, can be very materialistic, can be very, judgmental, can be, only want people for sexual intimacy, and that's just it, and that's all that they. Men and women both do that. We as a species, at least in my perspective, for what I'm seeing, both genders do it. I think it's the way that we go about it. And so, when I talk about intimacy, for example, the way that I like to go about intimacy per se with someone is I'm very not that I'm not straightforward, because I'm straightforward, but I like to see what the vibe is. I like to know who I'm talking to see how they're feeling, just to know who I'm giving my energy to. What type of person am I bringing my body and my energy towards? And also just to see if we align. And then I'll notice a misalignment somewhere in a lot of circumstances, and I'll be mad or I'll be disappointed because it's not the reality or the situation that I was hoping for. But then I also have to take an accountability of what I'm asking for, and then also knowing what that looks like. And so, per se, if I wanted to be intimate with somebody and that's all that I really wanted, You know, even though me knowing myself, I would want somebody, you know, at least be, you know, let's hang out, let's talk, let's get to know each other a little bit, let's see what the vibe is. Some people are just like, I'm trying to fuck, like just off ripple, which is fine in some cases, which is fine. You know what I'm saying? If that's really what that is, and both of you are on the same page as that, you just trying to get it off and go, go ahead. You know, that in itself is pretty healthy, I would say. At least you're both being honest and both being straightforward. But then there's a lot of times where it's like, I'll notice, at least like I said, in my it's funny, in my perspective with because I'm straight, is that girls for me is that they'll try to put me in a certain category, and usually the category I like, I've noticed I've gotten into is the side nigga category. Like, she wanna fuck with me, but she don't wanna fuck with me to the point of a relationship, but she also can't just be my friend. If you were to ask me what I really think as far as men and women being friends, I believe that men and women can cooperate together and can work together. But this is my caveat. I don't believe, this is gonna be, you know, niggas gonna judge me. I don't believe in being friends with a woman who is attracted to you, or at least having consistent, ample amount of consistent time with a woman and you being friends. Because if there's an initial attraction and it's mutual, eventually by spending an amount of time with somebody, there's going to be, especially if there's physical attraction, there's going to be, you know, we're human. If you're both not in a relationship and you're both attracted to each other and you're both sexually attracted to each other, it'll eventually lead to something that leads to physical intimacy, which isn't inherently a bad thing, because physical intimacy isn't the issue. It's the energy behind it. It's the transaction. If the mindset with the transaction isn't mutual, that's where you get arguments and fighting with somebody and disrespect, and, you know, some men and women like to just be straight to the point. I'm just trying to fuck. If you're not about fucking, I'm not trying to hear about it, which is fine, which is respectful, which is understood, which is appreciated, I feel like, for people. But there's also niggas like me to where it's like, I can't just like, do I like interaction sexually with women? Of course, I'm a man. Of course, we're designed that way. But I'm not the type of person to just give myself to somebody just for, like, if I don't know nothing about them, I'm gonna feel weird. Even talking to them just any type of way, I don't feel right. I particularly would say I wasn't raised to just be so forward about sex, you know, towards a woman. I usually like to speak to a woman in a sense of respect and commonality, to the point where I feel comfortable and just, you know, making her feel comfortable so that we can engage in those conversations and stuff. But then it's like, I'm also a man that has actual love in my heart, and I actually love women, and I actually like respect women. Not that I believe I should be putting up with any single type of behavior, because men and women put up with behaviors that they shouldn't have, even though they could be good people. And I think for the most part, I feel like a lot of, whether it be relationships or intimacy of sorts, a lot of it is just genuineness. And genuineness, I would say it is a form of love, you know? Like, being genuine with somebody isn't wrong. Wanting to know somebody, even if the correlation is just, you know, being bada boom, you know, saying pow. But I think it's just, yeah, how you go about it. And then knowing a person. It's like, do you want to have, if you were to have, like, here's an example. If you were to have sex with somebody, right? And it was a hookup. But you had sex with somebody and you don't know nothing about them. But if you knew everything about them, and let's say that everything, this is just a hypothetical. Let's say everything about them you wouldn't like. But because you don't know them at all, that energy of who they are and who you are don't match. It don't match. But then when you mix that energy with somebody, you can get thrown off, or attachment, or this or that. And so it's like, for myself, I'm very conscious of like, even though I have these desires, even though I have these fleshly desires, you know, and the Bible, or like ancient texts, since the dawn of time, sex is a good thing. Sex is procreation. Sex is a form of pleasure. Sex is what God wants you to have sex, you know. And so it's like, what why do we live in a world where that's not even respected no more? Like, the idea, like, of course sex is pleasure, but the idea of how we go about it now, it's like we don't even respect it. We don't even care for it. We don't even, it gets to the point where we only see people as sexual objects. We only see people as a value of our own needs, you know. And I never want a woman in my life, if I was to be intimate with her, to only feel like she's just a sexual object to me. You know, I know what it feels like to be sexualized. I know women know what it feels like to be sexualized. You know, some men also do know what it's like to be sexualized. And so it's like, I never want to objectify somebody because of my own desire. That doesn't seem honest or real or genuine. But it's like, I'll come across these scenarios where the intentionality is not for certain. That what a person may want from you versus what they actually want, and how they go about it, is two completely separate things to what you might want, how you go about it. But then when you break it down, you know, I'm not a believer of saying, oh, never have sex with one person your entire life. I don't even believe that. I don't even think that's real. But I think it's just the intentionality. I feel like people in the past, and our ancestors, valued sex because they valued intimacy, but they also knew that their intimacy, any form of intimacy, especially with sex, it is a form of love. It's a form of creation. So it's like, why don't we value people with the utmost respect if they're giving us their time, their energy, their body, you know, their trust? But then it's like, we as people nowadays, we treat people like they're objects. We treat people like they're options. We treat people like they're a resource. We don't treat people like they're human beings anymore. And so, like, when I see things such as hookup culture, or when I try myself to indulge in that certain type of behavior, it's very hard for me to indulge in that certain type of behavior, because mentally, where my head be at is, you know, before I do something with this girl, let me talk to her a bit. Let me get to know her. Let me see what vibe she's on for her. Let me see how she's feeling. Let me see what type of person this is. And so it's like how do I say this? It's like it's a cognitive dissonance with some people, where it's like they're just on that type timing. Immediate, if you, but because it's not spoken upon, because it's not made clear exactly, then it's kind of just like, you're left with scraps. You're left wondering. And sometimes I'll be left wondering. And then also, I like, me as a man, you know, because in the world, in social norms, you know what I'm saying, they say that, oh, a man that acquires a lot of women is considered high status, right? But then it's like, I'll look at the times that I have been around women, and I never, like, of course, validation everybody wants to a certain extent, but like, I now live my life to a point where, like, yeah, like, if the validation doesn't actually feel genuine, if this person doesn't even like who I am and only likes me for what they see, then really, why would I give them myself? If all you like is what you see, if that's all that it is, and that's all that it was, then there should be no purpose for me to entertain this type of behavior with somebody, because my outer shell is the only thing that matters. You don't care about my soul. You don't care about my mind. You don't care if I'm okay. You don't care if I go through things. You don't care if I have problems or issues. But people want to fuck you, though. People have sex with you so easy. Not that sex is bad, not that wanting to have sex is bad, not that wanting to be intimate with each other, because we're designed that way. But it's how we go about it. And I feel like yeah, it's just intentional. Being intentional with how you treat people and how you go about it. And so I just feel like more people should be intentional. More people before this is how I feel. Before being intimate with somebody, know if this person respects you. Know if this person at least cares a bit about you. Know if you guys have the same mindset. So at least when you're exchanging energy, the energy is similar. You don't want to give your body to someone who doesn't like you. Even if they like how you look, they might not like you, and that's bad. That's a horrible thing. Why would you want to give your body or your energy to somebody that doesn't even like you? They like what they see. You look handsome, or you look sexy, bitch, or you look... But then it's like, damn, you don't even know my favorite color. You don't even know my name. You don't know nothing about my life. And then it's the opportunity of you not being open to that. And it's not even about building a full-blown relationship with somebody, I feel like a lot of times if people went about sex with respect and courteousness of who a person was rather than what they just see, then a lot, like, hookup culture, I feel, wouldn't even be an issue. But then also, I feel like with that idea, a lot of people would be in relationships more, though. A lot of people would maybe have families more, though. A lot of people will be searching for love. And so a part of me be like, well, what am I really chasing? What am I really wanting? And the more I go through it, the more I'm like, damn, I just want love. Like, it's not all about the sex for me. It's not, it's about being seen. You know what I'm saying? It's about someone seeing, fuck what you see here. Do you see and hear? And I feel like that's what makes sex better, or that's what makes a relationship between man and woman better, is that we get to understand each other, you know? And understanding leads to wisdom, and wisdom leads to power. And how powerful would people be if we had a community of people who loved and respected each other? And even if it was just you know, trying to fuck, that you at least knew the person you were doing something with, that you at least understood them, that you respected them, that you were kind towards them. But then I think that's a level of love that most people don't get to, a level of respect for thyself that most people don't get to, you know? And I think sometimes for me, I still struggle, you know? I have desires, I'm a man. But I think the main thing that be getting me the most is that I'll go back and sit and think, well, oh yeah, shawty's want to mess with me, this, that. But then I'll sit back and I'll be like, in the grand scheme of knowing myself, that's not really what I want. That's not really who I am like that. Do I want to be intimate with somebody? Yeah. Do I like the idea of that? Yeah. But then I look for certain aspects, and then I realize I'm picky, and then I realize I probably shouldn't even be entertaining this type of behavior on my half because it's not conducive to my full growth, I guess. And so sometimes I feel like that's why the basis of everything, to be honest, it should be love. It should be mutual respect. It should be mutual understanding. Whether it be a platonic relationship, whether it be a romantic and you're in a relationship, or whether it's just sexual, everything should be off a basis of truth and mutual connection. Sex is the most connected you can get with somebody. Why would you connect with somebody you don't care about? Why would you connect with somebody that has to be a certain way for you? That transaction isn't mutual. That doesn't give authenticity. If what I give you has to be show up in a certain form, then really it's not about me. It's about what you want a mold to fit. And a lot of people want people to fit molds for them. They may like the way they look, but then, oh, I need you to be like this, or I need you to act like this, or I need you to be on this type timing. But if that was never discussed, then you have a disconnect. And then you have arguments, and you have fights, and then you have, you know? I guess what I'm really trying to say is I think people need more love in their heart. I think people need more genuine care. I think people need to actually see a person for who they are before they decide to get intimate with them. Not saying you have to marry the person. Not saying you have to be with them forever. Not saying that you can only live your life like this, but just remember that people are human. Remember that people have feelings. Remember that people are deserving of respect and of care and of kindness. Remember that sex is a beautiful thing. It's just us. We make it mean nothing. And sex should always mean something. And sex should always be a good thing. Yeah, that's my ramble. I'll probably make another vid today. So I'll catch you.